Hey everyone, how you doing? It's me, Whimsy. Thank you so much for your love and support of this channel. I am in beautiful Tel Aviv. I just got back from 2 days in Beersheba. Of course, I'm showing you an image in the background of the Well of Abraham, which was built during the time of Abraham. If you read the Bible, he bought the lands in that area and he had many children. And it's a wonderful place to visit if you ever get a chance. If you are interested in Bible history, etc., it's a pretty amazing part of the world. Anyway, so I arrived in Tel Aviv yesterday. Like I said, I'm learning a lot. I spent time at the Oasis of Peace. What's it called? Wahhabi Salam? Wahab Salam, I believe is how it's pronounced in Arabic. And I was able to speak to some of the Palestinian leadership, Jewish leadership there to get some basic ideas about how to create peace zones. It was an interesting experience. And the thing that I have learned about human nature, studying neuroscience, studying how human beings operate, if you look at the work of Robert Sapolsky, for example, we tell stories. We weave stories. And in these stories, we tell ourselves that we're really nice people, that we are the victim, and that the other person is the perpetrator. And no matter where I went, whether I was hearing the Arab side or whether I was hearing the Jewish side, people always perceived of themselves as innocent. But I think in order to go forward and heal ourselves, we have to be in touch with reality, and we have to look at data, and we have to acknowledge that mistakes were made by the Israelis, by Palestinians, and how can we come together to acknowledge when those mistakes are made? One of the things that I keep hearing from pro-Israelis is that there's no starvation happening in Gaza. There is starvation happening in Gaza. There is poor water and sanitation happening in Gaza. And many of the young children, the babies that we are seeing getting sick, are probably getting sick from contaminated water. And that's why we're seeing the dehydration. The adults may look healthier than the children because they may have a better immune system and may be better able to drink the water, but children really need sterilized water. And so what we've learned, because I have worked in poor countries as a medical internship. I've done internships in places like Nicaragua. And what I'm seeing is children with advanced disease, probably due to drinking contaminated water. And so there's been a criticism, why are the children so sick and the parents aren't? Just basic ignorance and misinformation on both sides. The other thing I keep hearing from the Israelis is that there's plenty of food in Gaza. There may be food in Gaza, but when the main employer in Gaza is Hamas, and Hamas is not able to pay their own fighters, and the people themselves have no money to buy the food, that's because they're not working. So I just hear ignorance on both sides. Yes, the water is contaminated. Yes, it's overcrowded. Yes, there is disease. Yes, we should have opened up the gate and helped the civilians get out. However, Hamas and Egypt have prevented people from getting out by locking the gate. But if we had opened the gate and said, okay, everybody can come to the Negev, people would have criticized that as Kushner's plan. So no matter what decision we make, we can't win. And so I've always said, rather than be politically correct, do what we can to save people's lives. And if we have to take people to the Negev, if we have to request U.S. troop backup, which I wrote President Trump and said, can we get 10,000 U.S. troops here and possibly move civilians to a safe zone in the Negev? If we can't get Egypt to do it, when you clear the terrorists, the bad people, that's looking a lot like Kushner's plan, and people may not be happy about that. But I don't care about being politically correct. I care about keeping children alive. And so When I developed Oasis One, it was this idea that we were going to create safe zones, get the people to safety, separate them from the terrorists, and begin healing communities and creating a friendly relationship with Israelis. That's what I'm trying to do. But unfortunately, it's a war, and not everybody wants peace. I was asked if I could talk a little bit about Trump coming to Israel next week. I think he will announce that U.S. troops are going to help the civilians in those safe zones. Like I said, I believe that this was decided November 27th, 2023, when Elon Musk and Netanyahu looked at the Oasis One proposal. Since that time, I've sent about 30 to 40 briefs to the IDF. President Trump has also received copies, as has Marco Rubio, Netanyahu, and Benny Gantz, the entire IDF war cabinet. Look at my data, and if you have to, if your data is not matching my data, then you're going to deviate from my plan of creating safe zones. But so far, it appears that they're following the suggestions and that their data agrees with my data. I would love to see civilians get out of the area as soon as possible. I would love to see U.S. troops help because they're being tortured and harassed by Hamas, and this is the end of Hamas. If Hamas does not leave, it's likely that they'll drop a major bomb, just like they did in Japan, and it ended the war in Japan. But what's different about the Israeli strike versus the US strike is that we will not be dropping that bomb on civilians the way they did in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And that's why you need a humane corridor, whether it's going to be to North Sinai, the Negev, or somewhere else. I've been asked if I could do some tarot card readings, and I would love to do those. First, I want to concentrate on Donald Trump. When I go into the energy of Donald Trump, I don't feel that he will run for a third term. I feel that his energy is waning. I feel like he's getting tired. I feel like he has been brought into this experience as an instrument, just like Pharaoh was an instrument in the Bible. He wasn't a good man, but God hardened his heart, or God used him as an instrument. And so in a way, I kind of see Donald Trump as an instrument. He's being used to implement this amazing transition that never should have happened. And Hamas never should have taken Gaza. And Israel made mistakes. Both sides made mistakes. Israel should have integrated the population and not been in isolated enclaves in Gaza. It should have been a concerted effort to bring the people in to a holistic relationship that benefited both parties. And I think this next time we work towards creating a soft border with Gaza, things are going to be a lot different. And it starts with first separating them from the bad people, and then, as the Oasis One proposal suggests, implementing acts of kindness. So, as Mr. Musk likes to say when he talks about it, he says, we will be implementing conspicuous acts of kindness. So first we separate the people, and then we get them to a safe zone. That's what's going to be happening in the next 3 weeks. And then once we get them safely into those zones, we can begin implementing acts of kindness. People need clean water. Their children are dying. This is not, at the same time, there's been disinformation by Hamas. Sometimes their missiles strike civilian targets. That's happened a lot. Sometimes they will embed soldiers into civilian populations or embed in hospitals, schools, etc. So, when you're in a situation like that and you're trying to save the children, save the innocents, civilians, and you've got these evil people amongst them, you have to do everything in your power to separate them, separate like the Red Sea, and get those people to safe zones. And it is a bloody, hard process because some people are brainwashed and they love Hamas, and some people just are innocent civilians in the middle of it. But I believe with perfect faith that despite all the horrors that are happening right now in this war, we will prevail. You know, it's interesting. I've seen a lot of film footage of World at War growing up and what happened to Americans in Japanese internment camps, but also what happened to American soldiers when they were captured by the Japanese and were, forced to use maggots to clean wounds, and the horrors of being under the Japanese, the suicide bombs, etc. And it really does remind me that we're in a very similar situation right now. War is hell, and for that reason, we have to do everything in our power to avoid war. Okay, I'm excited. I have no idea what the cards are going to say. I have not been playing with the cards for some time because I have been busy. I'm going to try and show you the cards, but I got a weird setup here, to be honest with you. Let's go ahead. Let's do this empath prayer. Let's find out what is going on. You guys asked about Donald Trump. I have no idea what's coming. I think he's an instrument to give birth to the new oasis. I think it's going to be bloody and difficult, but I think it will happen. I think that we will see the fall of Iranian leadership, and I think we will see the fall of Putin because everything is moving in that direction, and that is what the data shows. Let's do the impasse prayer. Let's come together. Even though we may not agree on everything, we are all human beings and we deserve respect and dignity. Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together, collectively, as a community, we say, Amen. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the future of Donald Trump. I'm feeling that once he fulfills his obligations or whatever he was brought into to facilitate the creation of oasis zones in Gaza, this healing that we need to do, I feel that he will be able to leave. I felt like April would be a very difficult month for him and that it could solidify things for him. Many people wanting to get rid of him because of instability in the stock market. We're now seeing, for example, that they're charging 100 and something % on tariffs with China. And of course, people are not happy about that. So what is the future of Trump and his administration? Can we expect only horrible things? Is there anything good? Maybe he's being used just to implement something that could not have been implemented under previous administrations that may have been playing softball with Iran, softball with ISIS. We do see that it's been a disaster in Afghanistan. The women are not even permitted to show an eye, only one eye. The other must be covered. Real deterioration of women's rights in that part of the world. And, sadly, life was better under Russian occupation for women than it has been under what you would consider local government. If the local government is the Taliban, then the occupation that was Russia, the Russian occupation was preferable in terms of women's rights than the alternative. I'm not saying Russia's great. We're just saying if you measure the rights of women under Russian occupation versus the Taliban, most women would choose Russia. I know I would. The future of Trump and the Trump administration. I'm excited. I have no idea what we're going to see. All right, where we are at right now, the sun is coming out. The sun is coming out is the base card of the reading. What do we know about the sun? We know that the sun is when it can sanitize things. For example, if you had a mold infection, mold thrives in warm, wet, dark places. So if you want to get rid of mold, you sanitize it. One of the ways is simply through light exposure. So the light can be used to sanitize and kill things. Some things don't like the light. Light can also be an expose when you're actually bringing to light something that's been hidden. So the sun burns. When you think about the energy of the sun, it also reminds me of Japan, whose flag is the sun. And the sun is heat, it's radiation. And if you look at the history of Japan, they have in fact attracted that. Maybe they didn't intend to attract that, but it is interesting to see that a correlation between this worship of the sun, the symbolism of heat and the sun, and given the recent history of Japan. But so from that, we see that the sun can burn radiation, bombs, heat. We could be seeing a lot of fighting, bombs dropping. But we also see the truth coming out. So there is this sanitation that's going to be happening with the Trump administration and his activities in the coming months. And it could be difficult for some people. The karma card is interesting, and it's also a war card. It's Uriel. So Uriel is associated with Ari. It's also the necessary change. You can see the chameleon who's changing over the page of wands, which would indicate, Ariel is war. It's the lion, and so we have this red hot heat coming in. It's also a new beginning in the time of spring, which goes until, I believe, June 21st. So we're looking at a lot of heat, a lot of fire in June, and we're feeling that energy of the Ali, the fire, the lion in Hebrew. Where we are at right now, our wishes will be granted. That which we want or desire will be granted. And if we're thinking about it in terms of Trump, he's getting a lot of what he wants. And his crossing card is, believe it or not, the new green economy. It's interesting, when I wrote the Oasis one, I wrote it as an eco-friendly proposal where those oasis zones would concentrate on, bringing back the aquifer in zone 2 or the Shalom Kerem area. I call it zone 2. And bringing back Bedouin traditions, Bedouin arts. The shuk that used to be part of Rafah and North Sinai is 3,000 years old, and it's part of the heritage of the people there. And so giving birth to that would bring this amazing art. The Bedouins are a great artist. The people of Gaza are a great artist. And all of that economy is eco-friendly. People could also stay in some of the hotels, et cetera, in the zone. But we're seeing the future is good. And believe it or not, it's green. This is the thing I want to emphasize over and over again. Talk. Trump likes to talk about oil and gas and coal. But the bottom line is that those companies, they're diversifying their portfolios into the new green economy because they see where the tide is headed. So Saudi Arabia is investing in the new green economy. The Arav Institute, that's doing a global programs in Africa, et cetera, is an Israeli company bringing solar and eco-friendly tourism to Africa. This is a good card. 7 of Pentacles, like I said, is the harvesting of the green. The more we put in, the more we get back, and it's positive. What is above him? Trump is going to have to let certain things go. You have above him a hanged man, and so something is being let go. And the thing that is being let go is ill health. This is the warning to Trump at this time. I believe he's becoming, 70 years old? Sorry if there's difficulty seeing this. Like I said, I've got a bit of a problem with the visuals, but basically he has an inverted strength card in his third house, which would indicate that what he is having to hang up, or he may be having to give up the presidency or let things go simply because he's not well. This could also be that if he's the president, an example of this would be FDR and Eleanor Roosevelt, where she took on many of the jobs, attending many events that he could not attend as he became more and more crippled and had more problems due to his polio. So he became ill, and Eleanor had to take over and cut ribbons and cakes, etc., because he simply wasn't able to make so many events. So we have this juxtaposition here between hanging things up due to an inversion or a change in the status of his health. You know, if it were me, I'd put him on a mostly plant-based anti-inflammatory diet, calorie restriction. I would consider Ozempic in a patient like this, because if they're not going to be completely compliant on diet, you may have to move towards medications. I'm a compassionate person. I'm a doctor. I don't get into the politics with my patients. I just want my patient to be healthy and thrive. I would say to this individual, I'm worried about his blood sugar. I feel like when a patient is 80, there's a very good chance we're going to be seeing diabetes, pre-diabetes, which can have an impact on blood sugar levels, brain health, increase your risk of Alzheimer's and coronary artery disease. I don't need to tell you where my head would be going, but I don't like this. I don't like this for this patient. Also, I'm feeling there's this psychopathy around him of like crazy, violent, irrational, brutal psychopathy. If this is Laura Loomer, people should be worried, because we're seeing here, oops, can't see it, I'm sorry, the inverted Queen of Swords. The inverted Queen of Swords, which is the female psychopath. So he's being influenced by potentially somebody who is not all there necessarily. This is a kind of violent female psychopathy that he's coming out of, and it's taking him towards, you know, what's interesting is that in his own way, he's making a relationship with God or his higher self. He is becoming philosophical about his own demise or his own death. Like I said, was he born in 1947, 46? I mean, he's almost 80 years old. He's entering into this card, which is interesting. This is the higher ethos, but it's coming into a hanged man. It's as if to say that Donald Trump is facing some kind of a health challenge and is getting overstimulated by this crazy energy, and it's leading him towards this kind of quiet, calm self-reflection. The other thing is Hierophant, if you're asking about the higher ethos of the United States, it's the Constitution is the law of the land. And so I use the Hierophant as the Constitution. I feel like the Constitution survives. This individual is used, maybe he's used for another 2.5 years. And then he steps down because he's simply ill or something happens. And then we have the entering into the sixth house, the Hierophant, which would be the higher ethos or Constitution. However, I do see war here with that Page of Wands and that Sun, as well as exposure of some type. Here again is a war imagery. War is happening now. Charge on God. Again, it's typified by the red fire of Aries or the Mars energy. And we have this aggressive energy. Direction is southwest. Of course, the Middle East is also referred to as Southwest Asia, if you don't want to be Eurocentric. And so we have this war happening in Southwest Asia, and we have an ailing president who has been influenced potentially by some psychopathic information that ultimately is surrendering to some higher ethos. Regarding the issues of war, the opposition is solid. They're comfortable in the garden. So if Trump is declaring war on his enemies, if he is attempting to break certain communities, he will not succeed, because his opposition, it's as if his economic confidence or peace coming in. The hopes and the fears for him, I think he may be afraid of his own death, his own demise, afraid of the people that he's hurt. It's as if he is haunted by demons at night. This can often happen to seniors, where they will have restless sleep or disturbed sleep, fears at night, phantoms, as they face the consequences of their own actions. They have to come to terms with their own actions, but you see this kind of Nine of Swords energy coming in. And then the final outcome is the star over him. He is the star. The clarification over the war is that it will end in a diplomatic peace. Diplomats will come in, and it will eventually lead to peace. He will continue to have problems with his opposition. He will never be accepted by Democrats. He will never be accepted by the opposing party. I see war, and I see a man leading the charge of war that is different than Trump, as if he brings somebody in, possibly a general or something like that, to oversee the rebuild and the movement of people out of the area prior to the bombings that are probably going to be happening in the coming weeks, as they do the final clearing of Gaza, because these cards are war. I mean, it's pretty obvious to see that this is all war. It's all heat. It's all fire. You can see here the final outcome again is war. You can see here war. This is all war. War cards. Also, the big issue for him is that it's almost as if he abdicates power of some type, simply because of physical exhaustion. So we're in the time of war, and Trump is a vehicle to clear this. It will always be criticized by his opposition. They will never give him credit. Even if it ends well, he will not receive credit, because he did a lot of things that hurt a lot of people, the LGBTQ community, etc. And so women, children, everybody else. He made a lot of enemies. He was cruel. The stuff coming out about him and Epstein, the fact that Trump businesses were corrupted with everything from human trafficking to you name it, all that stuff has started to come out. And when you come to the end of your life and you can no longer put on a facade, and you have to accept who you are and what you've done to others, it can be very difficult. But yeah, I think for him, the big challenge now is simply physical exhaustion, ill health, that may result in him not being able to continue. All right, I want to thank you for watching this quick video. Expect to see U.S. troops in Gaza and the Middle East in the coming weeks. Like I said, when I wrote the president, I requested 10,000 troops. I'll probably only get about 300 to 500 for the rebuild. We'll see when Trump announces it in the coming weeks. It's just another way of making sure that Hamas cannot steal the food. And I think it's great that U.S. troops can give food and feed the children, etc., because that's a much more positive thing for us to be doing with our military than hurting people. All right, love and light. If you're trying to get in for a reading with me, I will be back next week. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless, peace out, and we will see you next time. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.